So what is a graphic novel? As we read Persepolis, we need to distinguish it from other forms of literature that would cause confusion. Thus, we present what a graphic novel is. A graphic novel has more than one meaning. This meaning varies from region to region, such as mainland Europe and Japan, but we will be using the North American and British version of the meaning. A graphic novel is a form of literature that incorporates visuals that are similar to those of a comic book. However, this does not mean that a graphic novel is the same as a comic book. The main difference between graphic novels and comic books is that graphic novels can be nonfiction and fiction, while a comic book is restricted to only fictional content. A graphic novel can also be its own standalone book with its own developed and complex plot, or it can be a collection of shorter works compiled into one published book. Comic books may be read the same way, but the key difference is in the length of the story, as graphic novels tend to be the length of a full book. Another key differentiation is that comic books are historically admired for their art and are seen for their entertainment value, while graphic novels are seen for their message and writing. We could say this is similar to how YouTube and movies are nowadays. While YouTube is seen as a form of entertainment, movies are seen as a vessel for a greater message. Here's another question for you. Is a graphic novel a book? Short answer, yeah. A graphic novel could be considered a book, especially since it takes all the boxes that fit within the loose definition of a book. The loose definition of a book, according to the Merriam-Webster's dictionary, is a long written or printed composition. Under this definition, a graphic novel fits easily, but the idea that it features pictures often gives it a controversial reputation for being childish, and as a result, they are rarely taken seriously and are not considered as books by many. If we were to give a book a stricter definition, that is, a written work with a complex plot, main idea, and message, the graphic novel would still fit in this definition. If we were to take a graphic novel such as V for Vendetta, since we're all familiar with that, we could say that it fits into our definition of a book, easily. V for Vendetta was a graphic novel that we have read before, which, as we all know, could be considered a book, due to its deep meaning, use of literary devices, and very complex and entertaining plot. Not only this, but like books, graphic novels provide the beneficiary of teaching similar morals as your average book. On to Christian with the history of graphic novels.
So graphic novels have a wide range of history entangled within it. To begin, we look at the starting instances of prominent graphic novels in the 1920s, where Belgian Frans Maseriel revived the tradition of medieval woodcut art, a form of art printing which he wound up utilizing for his wordless novels. One of the first hardcover graphic and wordless novels out there was printed in 1930 by Milt Gross. The novel in question was He's Done Her Wrong. In 1940, we finally get our first instance of comics via the company Classic Illustrated. The company began as an adapter of previous novels converted into standalone comics, and progressed slowly into original comics from there. In 1946, the first original graphic novel is released, titled Citizen 13660, a story retelling a tale of a Japanese individual who experiences various hardships through the era of World War II. By the 60s, graphic novels began progressing in more and more creative art forms, and by 1962, the world-renowned comic of Spider-Man was finally released into the public. The true confirmation of graphic novels as a standalone type of novel occurs in 1976, when the book titled Chandler Red Tide by Jim Steranko self-proclaims itself as a graphic novel, the first instance of such proclamation.
Time to thank our proud sponsor of this video, graphic novels. Enjoy.
Reading a movie? Watching a book? Sounds like something out of your reach, right? Wrong. In case you've been living under a rock, allow me to introduce to you the graphic novel. Voila! Not to be confused with the comic book, graphic novels are, and you wouldn't believe it, a novel. Now there may be some confusion between comics and graphic novels, so allow me to explain. Graphic novels are essentially comics if they were bundled up into an entire saga, published by themselves, and have more detail-oriented plots that can diverge. In fact, you may not be as out of touch with the graphic novels as your hermit brain thinks it is. Ever read a manga? Then you've actually read a graphic novel. And here's a fun little twist about these graphic novels. Unlike your traditional novels, graphic novels can also be non-fiction stories. With all this in mind, what are you waiting for? Get out of your sad, dark hermit cave and pick up some refreshing graphic novels.
Disclaimer. Whatever we say may or may not apply to you or any of your loved ones. Side effects may include imaginary characters seeming real, inspiration to follow your own adventure, and the rotting of the brain due to overconsumption. Read at your own discretion.
What can be expressed in a graphic novel? Components of a graphic novel are similar to those of a comic book, but have a higher variety of elements that make a graphic novel stand out. Like a comic book, a graphic novel is carefully constructed by panels that create a consistent flow that the reader can follow. Panels are not too small to be illegible. Splash panels are used, like in Persepolis, to emphasize a contrast or an important event or information to a story that is needed. To emphasize speech in graphic novels, there's both speech bubbles and voiceovers. In this example, speech bubbles are shown in bubbles that are said by the characters of the novel. A voiceover is not a speech bubble as it is told in the point of view of the author, which would be an omniscient perspective, contrary to the character's limited point of view. Emanata is used and is seen throughout any visual literature, and its use is very significant. An emanata is an unrealistic pictorial element emanating from a character, symbolizing something about the character. Emotions, states, smells, and sounds are what can be considered emanata. The Lexicon of Kamikana by Mort Walker shows a universal set of symbols that depict meanings better through visuals than through text or dialogue. One set style also creates consistency within the graphic novel, creates a piece of literature that different audiences can easily follow and understand, as analysis is created on why everything was made the way it was.